Well, hello there, Erin here. I have a double page layout for you today, and this one was very heavily inspired by my friend Katie Taylor. She had the brilliant idea to use the Painterly Pears collection, and yeah, I've got a lot of scraps in there. I'm going to try to put some of these scraps to work, but she inspired me to use this paper collection to document these photos. It was a trip I was actually on with Katie and the rest of the creative design team ladies. We were in Vancouver, and this was just one of the many fun things we did. But we found this restaurant called Pears Pears, and it was gluten free. Look at all of those gluten free goodies. Oh my goodness, they were so tasty. But we had coffee and sandwiches. It was just such a wonderful time. And look how beautiful this coffee shot is. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then I think it was Katie who took the photo of the menu there, and maybe this one too. Katie probably took this. She's just really great at capturing the details. So she obviously, like I said, used this paper, but her layout, mine's going to be very different. And we even have some of the same photos, and then we're using different photos. So if you have not checked out Katie's video, I highly recommend you watch hers for more inspiration after you finish up with my video. So I have this paper right here, and it's absolutely beautiful. The backside is this peach color. So if I do this, I'm going to gut out the center. But I'm thinking of possibly a frame style layout. Does that have a direction? No, they're all just kind of coming into the layout. So I think I like it like that. So what I'm thinking is a frame style layout, and let me grab some Secret-C. Now you could just build your, cluster of photos here in the center, but I want a little bit more real estate, and I'm going to be layering up a bunch of those scraps. So some of this will be covered, but this paper makes a fantastic frame style layout. So maybe about 1/2 inch border. Okay, yeah, I'm going to cut these down. I went ahead and matted the white onto the Secret-C. Now my Secret-C is 11 inches squared, and then the white is just an eighth of an inch smaller. So that I love that border of the Secret-C around the outside edge there. And like I said, I will remove what is hidden back here, which, I don't really care about the white, but I do want to salvage this petal pink paper here and be able to use that for future projects. So I'll go ahead and do one of these on camera with you. So you can see I have a 1/2 of an inch border showing, and I need some paper for this to stick to. So I am going to go in 1 inch, and this works best with a trimmer, a rail trimmer like this. So super, easy way to do this is line it up at the 1 inch, and then line this up 1 inch down. Make sure you keep this up until you're at the 1 inch. Then you can close it. Slide from the 1 down to the 11. So you're stopping from an inch at the bottom. And then you're going to rotate, and it should already be in the right place because we stopped at the 11. And then go back up to the 1 and keep going around until the paper in the center is free. I know I've showed this several times here on my channel, but I was asked recently, and for the life of me could not remember what video it was in. So I promised I'd show it again, and now I'm going to make note of this so I have that for reference the next time someone wants to know how to do this. If you didn't quite line it up in the corner, you can always snip that with scissors. You know what? That's really pretty too. I'm actually glad I left that much of it, because even though I was thinking about this side, that would still be really lovely to use on something else. Like, look at that. You could actually, that would be kind of fun. It's like a continuation of the pattern. It's fun just to kind of see things. I wouldn't have thought of that until we got into the process here. So I've removed the section from the center. So this should be 10 by 10, and it is. And I will save that. I'll go ahead and do the opposite side off camera. And now I have just enough space to put a little adhesive around the edge there, and then tack this down. I went ahead and got those adhered down. And what I'm thinking for my photos here, so I I printed 2 of them larger. These are just shy of 4 by 6. So we've got the group photo of all of us at the table, and then of course the gluten-free goodness there, and then the rest of these are 3 by 4s. So what I'm thinking is maybe this over here, and then creating like a grid style. We've got another shot of the table, kind of a candid shot here. We're all looking, and something like that. I could do this. This gives us a little nook for embellishing, or I might end up putting this one over here. We'll let it develop, but this is my initial thought. And here's a little hint. I was just asked how I go about planning my layouts. If I'm starting with a sketch, that is by far the easiest way, and we do have a lot of sketchbooks that I use frequently. I'll use the same sketches over and over again because they look different with different papers and different embellishments. But what I do since I print at home is I'll print my favorite photos in a larger size, and then I print the other supporting photos smaller. So generally I'll limit myself to 3 4 by 6 size photos. Again, these are just shy. They're 4 by 5 1/4, but 3 total, because that, otherwise they start taking up a lot of real estate on the layout. And then I like to work with 3 by 4s. Now, often I'll crop them into a square, but if you look at these photos, I would have lost too much of the subject had I put them into a square. So that will kind of vary things as well. This photo is the glass window with the information on it, the name of the restaurant and some of what they offer, but you can see there's the creative design team gals outside through the window. You can kind of see Chelsea and Julie. I think that's me. There's Katie. So it's just kind of a neat shot. But had I been able to crop some of these into a square, I might have, because again, it just gives you more flexibility on the layout when you have varied sizes. So I think that looks pretty good. Now let's see what we can do with some of these scraps. Rather than cut into I do have a few whole sheets of paper. Well, let's see what we can do with these. So I'm pretty sure I want to use, let's see, we got a lot of scraps here. We even got some pears stamped out. I'm thinking, wow, maybe I should have sorted through here first. I like this paper a lot, this kind of wonky grid with the secret seat background. I've got quite a few large scraps of this beautiful old olive green color with the leaves, and that's beautiful. So I probably won't do something like this because we have quite a bit of busyness going around the outside edge of our frame style layout. So I'm thinking I will possibly, well, let's start with these. Start with the simpler, well, not simpler, but less busy patterns. And I like the way that is looking. What if sometimes it's just about layering things up and seeing what happens. This could work, and then I could put my journaling here. I could put an element here, a cluster, or my title. I tend to like to put my title over there. I've got a nice big scrap we could put over here, but we need to bring some of this over. So what do I have here? I've got, well, what's this one? Are those the same size? Close. One's slightly longer. We might be able to fake it until we make it and maybe make that look like one whole piece there. This is a very effective way to use up your scraps when you're hiding it behind the photos there. So maybe something like this, and I'll trim that to be the same size. Let's bring our photos back in and see what that looks like. Stay together. Behave yourself, paper. And then we need to bring in some of this. So I could just cut off a piece of that. So this coordinates with the dies. And if I don't have to cut this up, it would be nice to use those as embellishments. So let's see if I do have some other little scraps here. Let's see if we tuck this one and then maybe find a piece. Actually, there's enough of that there. I could cut that in half and give the illusion of that being one big long piece there. Let's see what this looks like before I commit to cutting that piece in half. We'll just pretend this is the same length. You know what? I think that's going to be good. And then I've got this piece here. Let's see what this looks like. being a little bit longer, maybe fill out that space a little bit. I'm going to bring this in here. You could kind of go, that actually fits perfectly, but it's getting a bit busy. So if we tuck this in and give ourselves a little bit of white space, I think that tones down the busyness. I'm liking that. I'm going to mat this maybe on green. I don't like how the white border disappears on the white background. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead and commit and cut this in half. Okay, so these pieces are 7¼ inches by 2 inches, and some of that's going to be layered. And you know what? I think I'm going to be able to totally get away with this not being a solid piece back there. The only spot it's peeking through is right there, and you don't even notice it. It just kind of disappears. That was a good pattern to do that with. So we'll bring this one down here. Oof, that was almost not long enough. And this like this. And then I did cut a green mat, same old olive color. And we've got the dark or the light, but I think I like the light. Kind of brighten that up a little bit. And maybe put that. See how that just instantly makes that stand out and creates another layer? I'm liking it. This is kind of fun, tackling these scraps. I cut another one for this photo because it also is hanging off the edge there. So we'll just bring that one in, and the rest are matted with white. I printed them with the white border, and I think that that looks good. So we don't need to put a mat on every single photo here. So we will just line this up. We have a nice little pop of that green around the border there. And I think I want to ink up the edges of at least this pattern paper here. I think I'm going to bring in brown. There's brown in the paper. It's actually pecan pie. I've got early espresso because it'll show up better, but I want to play up the brown in the coffee and in the pastries. There was like chocolate goodness. Oh, it was so yummy. It was kind of fun because we each got different things, and then we kind of shared bites, and that way we could try more than just what we could order. And of course, you know, everybody ate too much, which is so easy to do when you're traveling, and it's just a fun atmosphere and delicious treats. So I'll just go ahead and do a little bit of this on camera with you, and I'll get the rest done so you don't have to watch the whole process. I have some fun little elements to embellish with. These were left over from previous projects, and I've stamped these pears out using Darling Duckling and then a little bit of pumpkin pie for the edge. I just sponged it on. And again, I showed just how to do that in the first video where I created a layout, and I'll have that linked below. And this is just a fun stamp because you have all of this gorgeous detail right there in one, and it looks like you've layered a bunch of images, but there's an outline you could add as well. And then the little stippling detail I stamped with this stamp here in pecan pie. So then you have some layering leaves and some smaller pears, and then of course some nice sentiments. And then there's some die cut leaves and little accent flowers, and then these really cool textural elements here, and those were cut, you see that better there, those were cut with pecan pie or from pecan pie paper. So I have these to embellish with, and then I pulled this stamp set. What are you doing there? This stamp set, Coffee with Friends and Latte Love. These are both retired, but I collect coffee stamps like I collect pine tree stamps. So I have a whole bunch of them, and I love revisiting my collection. But I thought maybe a coffee cup or possibly this one. And there's a whole bunch of dies in here too that make some really cute, some of them line up with the stamps, but then I could make some coffee themed ephemera with this die set as well. And in fact, I already went ahead and stamped these in Memento Black so they had time to dry. And I'm thinking about bringing in some of the Petal pink color. I think that might look really nice. I have my Petal Pink Stampin' Blends. This is the darker version, and I'm using the brush tip to add a little shadowing around the bottom and kind of around the creases of the cup. And maybe, oh, and here's Dave coming in to see what I'm doing. Dave, I can't see. I'm going to color out of the lines. I'm switching to my lighter marker to kind of finish coloring this off and blend those together. I am avoiding the black lines. I stamped this hours ago, so it's plenty dry, but still some colors can kind of activate the ink, so I just avoid those the best I can. Dave is super interested in what's going on right now. Do you want a cup of coffee, Dave? Is that what you're trying to tell me? You know, it's not a bad idea. Dave and I took a coffee break, and now I'm going to add my paper coffee. I've got this little stamp here. I'm using Pecan Pie. Let's test that. Now that looks pretty good. So we'll line this up so it looks like there's some delicious coffee in our cute little cup here. Let's do this one as well. And perfect. So I have some of these already made. I'm going to get these die cut out. Let me finish coloring in the space where my coffee didn't fill in. And the coordinating die, I'll just go ahead and get those die cut out. And then I want to show you. The Memento Black ink is alcohol marker friendly, but I do recommend you let it dry. This one here on the left, I colored too soon, and you can see, maybe you can't see, it's just a little soft. It kind of made those lines blurry, and the one on the right is super crisp where I let it dry for several hours actually. So just a little side note, make sure it's dry and you will get less activation of those lines. So I mentioned earlier maybe putting my title on a circle over on this left-hand side. I've got my Spotlight on Nature circles, and I'm just looking for the appropriate size. I think that looks good. And then I'm picturing some of these pears kind of just over in this area here. Maybe we can nestle in some of these cool little woven textural elements. And I need to make some leaves, but we'll come back to that. And then maybe another little cluster right here. That's actually pretty cute. I like the coffee cup with the pear. Katie did that on her layout, which is what gave me the idea. I am not sure about the third embellishment cluster, so for now, we will work on the title. I have a bin I call title stamps, and these are all stamps that I can use as title options. So this is a favorite here, but I wanted to fit on that tag. So I'm just kind of thumbing through looking for inspiration. This is winter, but magical moments, or even what fun, better together. Any of those would work. This one, ooh, these are the good days. That could work. That could definitely work. Let's see if this fits here. Let me just try it on the actual stamp. Wait, that's not the right one. It's this one here. That would fit. It's pretty tight. It goes edge to edge there, but it's a contender. I like that option, but let's see if I have any others that jump out at me. This is a good one. This is the Life. This is an old Close to My Heart stamp. It's called Moments That Matter. And, you know, it's a tight fit too, but I think that's the one. Let's go for that one. Let me just set this back in here and bring in my Misty and a piece of white paper. So I need to make sure I give myself enough room to where I can center it within the circle. So let's just line up our stamp here and then bring my circle in. I think I need to bump that down just a bit. And that looks good. We can go ahead and pick it up with the Misty door. Make sure it's back in the corner. And I'm actually going to flip that over because I got a fingerprint on it. And then I am again using my Pecan Pie ink to kind of play up those rich coffee tones and then the Pecan Pie little woven elements I die cut and added to my embellishments. So we'll stamp that twice and that should do it. Yep, looks good. So we can go ahead and use our circle to die cut that out. I absolutely love collecting title stamps like this because you can use them over and over and over again. It could be a title, it could be a subtitle. They're just really handy to have. So do I want that over? Do I want it under? Do I want it under both? I think it's covering too much of me in the photo, so maybe we'll just go under like that. And we can bring our little pears back in, and this is coming together. So let me cut the stems for these little guys. They look funny without their stems, so I think that will add quite a bit to them. So I die cut them from the paper. This pattern paper here, there's dies for the pears, the flowers, and the stems. So you can stamp the stems, but since I had that pattern paper, I just decided to use those. And the flowers are nice too. I think those will be nice to add a little bit of that petal pink. But see how that finishes those pears off so nicely? I love the little stem element. We don't have a lot of room for a third embellishment cluster, but I'm thinking if we overlap the photo because I don't need to read the whole menu anyway. So I've got some smaller pears here and bringing in all my elements. And then from this stamp set, I stamped the croissant and the 2 coffee cups. And Again, I don't care if we can read the whole menu. I've got the pear and the name of the restaurant visible in the upper left-hand corner, and that's all I need. So I think that's pretty cute. I have this guy too, but maybe less is more. So for my journaling, I printed that out on vellum, and I was thinking of this space, but you know what? Let's tuck that under. I'll adhere it by attaching it under the photo. Some of the text is hanging off of the darker paper, so let's just make that look more intentional and scoot it over. And then I also have from this Coffee with Friends, this stamp set here says Coffee with a Friend is happiness in a cup. And I thought that would make a nice little sentiment on my layout. So let's go ahead and grab some crumb cake cardstock. And I've got some early espresso ink. I chose this one because it's darker and it'll stand out more. So let's go ahead. That did not turn out very great, but I don't want to use the darker side. So I grabbed another scrap of crumb cake and we'll try that again. Actually, I'm going to use my label punch. So let's put that towards the bottom and hopefully it fits. I did not test it, but I love this little label punch. It's so quick and easy. So is that going to fit? Oh yeah, that is going to fit. Barely. It's edge to edge, but I would like a little bit of a border around the two edges, but I think that'll work. It's good enough. So we can go ahead and add this to the layout. I'm thinking maybe on the left above our main focal photo here. So that's an option. I don't know. It kind of looks random by itself. Maybe we could try it over here. I don't like that. What about right here? I think that's better. I like that. We're going to go with that option. Now these are the muted palette dots, and there's like a petal pink and then the yellow and the green. Any one of those colors would go with this layout and be a good choice, but I think let's go with the pink, the petal pink. So this is the pickup tool. I'm just going to add a few around each cluster and just a little something, add a little textural element. While creating a layout with this paper collection the first go around, I mentioned I bought it because it's beautiful and I had no plans, but I'm so glad I decided to get it because it's been a lot of fun to work with and the colors are gorgeous. Anytime you'd use florals, just maybe try this pear paper instead. So yes, it doesn't have to be literal. I do have a pear on the menu and the name of the restaurant has pear in it, but I think it would have worked with any type of little eatery photos as long as the colors complement your photos. So everything I used is in the description box below. And if you're looking for more inspiration, YouTube thinks that you will like this video right here. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you very soon here on YouTube.